Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/AITA. In today's episode, AITA for blowing up at my mom when she said the reason I turned out so good is because she sent me to rehab for weed at 13? AITA for kicking my brother and his daughter out of my house and forcing them to pay for a hotel? AITA for telling a pregnant lady to sit down? Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. AITA for blowing up at my mom when she said the reason I turned out so good is because she sent me to rehab for weed at 13? I'll, 20M, admit I was a shitty tween. I got into a lot of fights with my parents, my grades were shit, and I was generally a prick. When I was 13, some friends and I shared a joint one of them had gotten from their sister. It had just been made legal in our state at the time. My parents found out, and they went nuts. Now I get that weed isn't for 13-year-olds, but they took it way too far. I spent the next 3 months in an expensive rehab facility for troubled teens. I was by far the youngest and smallest. Most of these guys were 16 to 18. And they weren't in there for weed, most of them did hard drugs, and had mental issues on top of that. My roommate was a 17-year-old who was detoxing from meth and pills, who also had unmedicated bipolar. A few nights he'd just stare at me and not sleep. We were in our rooms 18 hours a day, everything else was meals or shitty arts and crafts. It was hell, but it worked. I was too terrified to have friends, much less do drugs. I wanted to go and see with my family at 18, but my therapist encouraged me to repair our relationship. We have a rocky one, which is why I moved out, but we've been working on healing and it's been cordial. I was over there for Easter with the whole family, and my mom congratulated me. She said she was so thankful she had me sent to get help as a kid, otherwise I'd just be some junkie. But now I'm a perfectly functioning member of society. I lost it. I called her several things, including C*NT, and left. My sister, 18F, said that while she agrees, I'm just hurting myself by holding on to so much anger over what happened. NTA. You were traumatized by your experience. This has clearly been building up for some time. You may not have reacted in the best way, but what she did was way too extreme for a single joint. Keep up with the therapy. Maybe NC for a while will be good for you. NTA. I would have went no contact TBH. Can't imagine being shipped off to some facility, being traumatized by it and then hearing how good it was for me. The audacity. NTA. You weren't holding on to anger, you were finally expressing it. I don't know how your sister and your therapist can think you can heal if your mother, who did all this to you, has no idea of all the damage she caused. Time for a real talk. And good luck on your journey. Yeah, might be time to see another therapist too. Reddit hasn't even heard the entire story of Opie's stay at that facility, but already knows that it might be best to go NC/LC. Therapist who heard the whole story, I'm assuming, yet still pushes for reconciliation, W/O acknowledgement of wrongdoing from Opie's parents nonetheless, probably doesn't have Opie's best interests at heart. At 13 years old, I was doing what every other kid in my country was at that age, drinking stolen vodka in a park whilst sharing cigarettes we'd had some shifty adult buy for us. And I, along with everyone else, turned out fine. Rehab for having a joint, even if weed at 13 is too young, isn't a reasonable or appropriate response. An honest conversation and some puishment at home would have worked out fine. You are NTA, your mother is. NTA. You're young, just stop trying to have a relationship with her. You no longer need her. Not worth the anger and upset. She's never going to see anything your way, so just stop trying to make her. When she asks why you hate her, tell her it's because she sent you away at 13. Which will actually be the truth. Yeah, the world is difficult and you need to look out for number one. Opie, mom took a chunk out of your heart to soothe her own guilt. That was such an extreme reaction to finding out you had tried weed. Go and see please for your own good. I would say NTA based on the fact you smoked once and were sent to rehab for it. It may have helped you get rid of some shitty behavior, but rehab at that age for just that is too extreme emo. Your mother overreacted and exaggerated, so I understand why you blew up. The only advice I will give you is to perhaps write a letter to your mother about how you felt about what she said. This way, you avoid getting into a yelling match without being able to express how you feel properly. Whatever she does with it is up to her, but what she does can certainly make or break this relationship. This right here I will tack on that writing it out will also help with your mental state as well. Writing can be a way of getting it out of yourself so you're not curling up with it during your periods of relaxation. NTA. Oh wow, I'm so proud of myself, I managed to traumatize my kid into behavior that I find suitable. Yes, some teens are hard, some even end up in bad places. Traumatizing them into behaving like functioning members of society is the highway to mental break at 30. Also, it's high time you find a new therapist. They shouldn't be encouraging you either way, most definitely not to keep in touch with people who makes you feel bad. Their job should be guiding you to manage your feelings and making your own decisions. If that includes contact with your old folks, should be entirely up to you. AITA for kicking my brother and his daughter out of my house and forcing them to pay for a hotel? My 34F brother John, 29M, has a kid Emily, 12F, who has ADHD. The plan was that they would stay with me at my house for a few days so that they could celebrate Emily's birthday with me. John told me beforehand that, due to Emily's ADHD, she would bring some fidget toys with her, and I said that that's fine, as long as she wouldn't leave them lying around or make a mess. I like to keep a tidy and clean house. My home growing up was always filthy and I couldn't stand it. When they arrived, I saw that one of the fidget toys John had told me about was that horrid slime stuff, and she was playing/fiddling with it when she walked in. I absolutely detest it, it just makes a sticky mess, so I asked her if she had brought anything else to fiddle with, and she said she forgot her bag of fidget stuff, so she only had this. I didn't want her to be in distress, and I myself have autism, so I also have things for stimming with. I offered them to Emily to see if she wanted them instead, but she said no because she only really likes to fiddle with her own stuff. I told her that's okay, but her slime isn't allowed to leave the room she'll be sleeping in, because that room isn't carpeted. On the second day of their visit, she went up to me, crying, saying she'd got some of the slime on the floor. I expected it to be on the floor of her own bedroom, where I could get it off relatively easily, but she led me to my bedroom, and it was stuck in the carpet. I told her to leave the room, and that I would deal with it, not shouting or raising my voice, but probably with clenched teeth, as I was pretty angry at not only a violation of the rules I had set up but also of my privacy. She's visited before and knows that my room is out of bounds to her. I managed to clean it, but the dye in it left a stain. I told John that while we could still do all the activities we'd planned, he and Emily had to stay in a hotel for the rest of their trip, as I couldn't trust that this wouldn't happen again. I offered to pay half of the costs, but John declined. It still was a good trip, and Emily had fun on her birthday, but John is nevertheless angry with me for forcing him to pay for a hotel just because Emily made a mistake. AITA? Edit, I've noticed that in the comments a lot of people have been misgendering me, accidentally, I assume, and I would just like to clarify that my pronouns are she/her, as stated above. Second edit, I like how this is an actual discussion, there are people agreeing and disagreeing with each other. Most AITA posts are just echo chambers. Edit 3, I forgot to mention, I suppose because it was just so obvious to me, but I did have to use vinegar to get the slime out of the carpet, and of course vinegar has a very strong smell. As someone with autism, smells are a pretty big deal for me, and it was quite distressing to clean. NTA, why couldn't her father have gone to the store and got her a new fidget toy of her own that she could have used in your home? She's 12 and she knows she's not meant to be in your room, that alone would be enough for me to ask them to leave. Definitely. I have some disabilities and knew to never invade another person's safe place, aka bedroom. If I did, I asked and was respectful of their space. I would lose my shit if someone entered in no room and made a mess. Like you, I wouldn't direct it at a child, but the adult that should be supervising them. They pay for the damage. NTA, your house, your rules. You were accommodating and they disrespected your rules. This is more on your brother, he should know better. NTA. Not only did she break your rule of keeping slime in her/her dad's room, but she went into your bedroom. Emily still had a good trip and hopefully she'll be able to better follow rules next time. I think it's a learning opportunity for the brother/father of the story as well. He will realize there are consequences to actions and his daughter will start to feel the burn of them now that she's going to be a teen. NTA. To me, the rest of it doesn't matter, she's 12, she's old enough to know better. She knew she wasn't supposed to go into your room. She knew the slime was supposed to stay in her space. Sounds to me like she did it on purpose to try to push your boundaries. You held firm. It's not like you canceled the vacation or called her a name or kicked them out of your life. Actions, consequences. Nuff said. She said she forgot her bag of fidget stuff, so she only had this. NTA. Your brother knows she needs these items and didn't check she had them. He brought slime into your house, which is a no for me. You asked her to keep it to her room, where there is no carpet. She was in your off-limits to her bedroom. You offered her other stim supplies and she said no. 12 is too old for this. Yourself and Eunice are NTA. Your brother is. First thought, ASD plus ADHD can be like fire and gasoline if not supervised correctly. 2. Your niece has ADHD. Which mean, although she's 12, she can be forgetful or need to get some dopamine, entering a forbidden bedroom for example. So I disagree to some comments blaming her, telling she should know better. Her dad know her diagnosis, is received as a guest at his sister's house, although she has autism. And he let his daughter make a mess, triggering his sister. He should know better. Take time to learn that neurodivergent brains are wired differently and some habits can't be changed, but avoided. Seems like a bit of an overreaction, to be honest. Feels like you skipped a lot of steps and went straight for the nuclear option. ESH. I would agree if her niece was, say, 5 years old. She's 12 years old and should have known better. The rules were reasonable and her niece purposely broke the rule and on top of that went into a space she wasn't supposed to. Sounds like she was purposely pushing boundaries, so I think OP's reaction was reasonable. NTA. Exactly. Let's in the real world, there is no one strike you're out. Especially with something as minor as this. YTA based on your reaction to something so minor. NTA for anyone saying this was an overreaction, I'd like to know when you think it is appropriate for consequences to match actions? When should a child learn to respect boundaries and that not respecting them leads to unpleasant situations? The answer is that this situation is that time. How many posts have we all read about how some entitled adult was never taught boundaries as a child and that explains their awful adult behavior? Teaching those things at 12 is developmentally appropriate and is the exact way to prevent raising asshole adults. AITA for telling a pregnant lady to sit down? So today I, 22F, was at coffee shop and I was like second in line to order when a pregnant lady and her friend came up and just stood beside me and asked if they could go next. Now I was really hungry and tired and it was around like 4 in the afternoon and I didn't eat anything since the previous night. The place was also like really hot and I have a habit of fainting under those exact circumstances, no food and extreme heat. So I told them sorry but no, they can't order before me. Then the friend of the pregnant lady told me that if I didn't notice, the lady was pregnant so they really just wanted to order so she could sit down. I then said, unless you're pregnant as well, why don't you just let the pregnant lady sit down and you join the back of the line and order for the both of you? The friend got visibly annoyed so they walked to the back of the line. There were like 4 or 5 people behind me, so that made them like the 6th person to order. It was then my turn to order, so I just did and went about my day, but now that I'm thinking about it, AITA? NTA. Unless you're pregnant as well, why don't you just let the pregnant lady sit down and you join the back of the line and order for the both of you? Being pregnant can't be easy. But it also doesn't entitle you. NTA. I've been pregnant and would never have assumed I could cut a line like that. It's not fair to the people behind you either. If people think that cutting the line only affects one person, so as long as they got permission from that one person, it's okay. They don't realize they've just delayed everyone else in the queue. The only line I've cut during pregnancy was the bathroom one, and only then under extreme circumstances, and I still asked politely. NTA. If the pregnant lady was really having trouble standing in a short line, then she should have sat down while her friend ordered for her. This is not an excuse to cut in line while everyone has waited their turn. OP your NTA. That was my suggestion. I was just wondering whether or not my reaction was overkill, but the general consensus says that I am not the holy, so I'm no longer doubting my response. NTA. Was a good suggestion you made. I know everyone handles pregnancy differently, but if this lady is having such a hard time standing in line while pregnant, maybe she shouldn't be out. Right? It is a cafe, not a water fountain. You'll be fine waiting for your scone and frappe. I had the worst pelvic pain during my pregnancy and couldn't stand/walk for long periods. I definitely would have sat at a table and got my friend to order for me. NTA. You waited in line. They asked to cut and you said no. Take care of yourself better. That's the thing, they asked, OP said no. That's the end of the conversation. They didn't have to get shitty about it, and they didn't have to try to convince anyone. The answer was no. NTA. I always try to make sure I always eat something to prevent passing out, but on this one day I was extremely busy, and before I knew it, it was 4 in the afternoon. Thank you for your response though, I really appreciate it, smiley face. NTA. When you make the decision to let someone cut in front of you in line, you're not just impacting yourself. You're impacting every person behind you who, I guarantee, is just as irritated at the overprivileged line cutter as you are. If I were behind you in line, and you had let them cut in line, you'd have felt daggers coming from my eyes into the back of your head. If they have an actual medical emergency, they probably shouldn't be ordering coffee and scones. Otherwise, your suggestion is entirely reasonable. I hate line cutters as well. Usually I don't say anything and simply stare them down to make them feel uncomfortable, but I was just so tired I ended up saying something which made me wonder as to whether or not I was the holy. NTA. I've been pregnant. There's no reason why she can't wait in line like everyone else, and if there were a medical reason, then her friend is the AH for not waiting in line to order for her. Same. When I was super pregnant, I would just wait in line while doing that side-to-side sway to keep my hips from sinking into my thighs. Some people would offer to let me go ahead and some don't. Either way, it was never an expectation. Only time I had expectations were if I was going up and down the stairs. I wasn't going to / wasn't able to get out of the way for anyone other than maybe a frail elder. I have gestational diabetes, again yay me, and there are times I absolutely cannot wait in a line unless you want to deal with a fainting pregnant lady. But in this circumstance, I'd have been sitting down as per OP's suggestion whilst someone else queued and ordered for me. NTA, that was spot on. The friend wanted to cut the line because she's pregnant, but didn't think about the others and their needs. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.